Hey, Luminary, this week is all about Cancer. And if you've been judging your need for emotional security, self care, and caretaking, I want to blast that all out of the water because Cancer is the energy that you need to nourish and bloom your leadership. So stay tuned. Before we dive in, if you want to be notified whenever a new video drops, hit that subscribe button. If you already have, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for supporting this channel, Star Powered with Leslie Tagorda. That's me. Welcome to Star Powered Astrology for Changemakers. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your guide, a Hawaii-born Filipino Jewish astrologer who loves navigating visionaries like you through the spiritual journey of your work so that you can be inspired to lead by your chart and become the luminary leader you were born to. All right, Luminary, it's Leslie Tagorda back with another episode, really focusing in on our third week of June 14th. We have our Summer Solstice that coincides with the sun moving into Cancer. And we also have ending this full week with an amazing full moon in Capricorn. But before all that, we also have to address that we also have Mercury and Venus that have now officially moved into Cancer, getting ready for the sun to lay out that red carpet as the sun moves into Cancer, sparking our solstice. Now, it has been a very busy week after a very busy first half of the year. And now it's finally time to take a beat, to practice a little bit of self-care, whatever that means for you, because the wild ride is going to continue to move forward. But Cancer energy is like, hold on, we can't continue to grow if we don't nourish ourselves, nourishing ourselves physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever we need to create some space, create some kindness, create some self-care so that we can do some of the heavy lifting that is going to be coming for us as the second half of the year approaches. So in this episode, I really want to focus on why it's time to take a break. I want to go over this Cancer party and how to use all this Cancer energy in your leadership. Of course, we're going to break down some judgments about the Cancer archetype because I know you have them. Everybody does. I'm going to talk about Venus and Mercury in Cancer, what that means. Talk about the solstice when the sun enters Cancer. Then we'll talk about the Capricorn full moon and reflecting on that the first half of the year, what has bloomed for you. All right. Now, this week has just been this like really epic week as, you know, right now, Venus and Mercury are already in Cancer. And so things have kind of splashed down because Venus and Mercury have been really moving so quickly through the zodiac, like just so quickly, especially and then when they're going through Gemini, that very quick energy on top of their quick speediness, like everything is on the gas. I know that you probably felt all of that energy, that momentum, that pressure. Hopefully, you're able to accomplish a lot during that time. I like to think of it as like riding the wind or the wind beneath their wings with both Venus, the planet of connection and attraction, as well as Mercury, the planet of expression, understanding, and perception. And so with these energies, I imagine that things have been both busy in your work as well as your social life because that all of that Gemini energy was so much gathering. But now that both Venus and Mercury have now splashed into Cancer, Cancer is such a different energy than Gemini. Like Cancer is that energy. Yes, it is water and it is cardinal. That 0-degree Cancer point is on the world axes. All of those cardinal points at 0 degrees, the final degrees, those mutable degrees between Gemini, Pisces, Virgo, and Sagittarius, those final degrees of those mutable signs as they get ready to go into that first degree of a cardinal sign, also have that energy like, I'm done with that past, I'm ready to move into the future. And so this has also felt like this kind of energy of like, I got to finish up all of those loose ends. And so for me, I've been just like busy checking things off my list. I've been busy putting together a secret proposal. I've been busy like getting all things ready. And I am finally ready to put my feet up, take a little bit of a breather. Now, yes, we think of Cancer as, focusing in on the home and caretaking and the Divine Mother, but Cancer does have a ton to do with our leadership because ultimately, Cancer is more than mothering or caretaking or the Divine Feminine. Like, those are all really, really important things. But when you think about what the energy of the Divine Mother, of that nurturing, of that caretaking, what Cancer does as the first water sign is it creates safe, sacred, inner space for us to have emotional security. That's why when we think about home is where the heart is. For most of us, we get to, hopefully most of us live in safe homes where we feel accepted, where we have belonging. And in our businesses, most of our coaching programs, if you run a coaching program or if you run like small group programs, it needs to embody that Cancerian energy, that place of this is an inner sanctuary where we're going to start to do the deep work. Now, in episode 91, if you go way back into the Wayback Machine, I have an entire episode on Cancer. And I really love talking about Cancer because I notice that the people that have strong Cancer, whether they have their sun, moon rising, or midheaven, or stellium in Cancer, they never see the power of the Cancer archetype in leadership. And let me tell you, that emotional security, when I talk about more about that emotional security in that Cancer in that episode 91, you'll understand why this is cardinal, why this is foundational, why Cancer is a starting point for anything to happen. Now that's episode 91. But remember, I also have a free audio archetypes program that you can find on my website called starpowered.com/audio. AUDIO. And you can download my archetypes audio program where I go through all of the 12 archetypes and then send you emails with reflection exercises on how you can use that archetype in your business, in your brand, and in your leadership. So let's talk a little bit more of that Cancer archetype and why emotional security is so important. Now, I have Cancer on the second house, meaning that my gift of transformation, my brand promise, my unique value proposition, the value that I give to others, my return on investment is Cancer. And at first, when I started thinking about Cancer on the second house, I was like, okay, yes, I value my family. Yes, I do. Yes, I can invest in real estate. I'm lucky to own my home in San Francisco. Okay, yeah, that's been working out for me really well. But in terms of like return on investment, when I think about my clients, like I'm not giving them a house, I'm not giving them family. But what I always hear my clients say is what I've helped them see and realize about their strengths, about their natal gifts, about their purpose is so affirming. It's so validating because oftentimes when we're thinking about our leadership and our leadership style, we are comparing and trying to copy what we see out in the world because we don't have a role model of how we each individually, you is supposed to lead. And so we start comparing and copying and trying to be all of the things because, of course, we never think that we are enough. But when I start to share with my clients and their natal chart and seeing their gifts of their leadership from what they do so well that differentiates them from others, how they initiate and go about things, what they need to nourish in themselves to feel secure and successful and confident, when I go through those things with my clients, it is so affirming because deep down somewhere inside them, they've recognized this, but haven't allowed themselves to feel that, to accept that. And so through our conversations, even though I may not be telling them something that's like absolutely new, I'm still blowing their mind because it affirms something so deep within them. It touches them in their heart. It really creates this sense of security from within. And that's what I mean by emotional security, feeling validated, feeling like I belong, feeling like I'm affirmed, that I am supposed to be me. What does that feel like when you truly drop that in emotionally? Oh my gosh, it's very, very powerful. That's why I am a true believer that our emotions are so huge when we're talking about our leadership, because our emotions, that heart center, connects what's going on in our minds, all of the kinds of logicizing and the thinking and like the ideating, and us taking actions, earthly actions through our hands. That energy has to pass from our thinking to our hands. It first has to pass through our heart. And let me tell you, if you're not feeling emotionally secure, guess what? You're gonna get stuck in procrastination and stuck not doing anything, or you're going to take action based on fear. Right? You're literally going to take action because you're afraid of something instead of taking action because I have courage, even though I am afraid. I trust myself so well. I'm so emotionally grounded and secure that I can go do the scary things. So our emotions are our gatekeeper and hook our ability to take action based on our ideas. And if that heart center is not secure, if it's not nourished, we are not going to go the right direction. And so, of course, in Cancer season, it's really important to pay attention to our emotional security. And if you've been running a mile a minute, keeping busy, trying to put out the fires, doing all the people pleasing, doing all the things, then guess what? You are not nourishing your sense of self and what you need. Of course, if you need to find out what you need, look at your moon sign. I'm a Sagittarius moon. Of course, I need freedom. Of course, I need meaning. Of course, I need choice and purpose. What about your moon? I have a bunch of episodes on the moon from the way back when. So take a look at some of the earliest episodes. I have a number of episodes on how to nourish your moon sign. And that would be a really good place for you to start this Cancer season, is to really get in touch with what you need emotionally so that you can feel secure, so that you can refill your cup. Now, again, that importance of that emotional security, why we think of these water signs as healing energies. We have Cancer season first, then we have fixed water, which is Scorpio, and then we have Pisces, which is mutable water. But nothing can happen if that Cancer space holding is not created in terms of healing. So when we think from a healing from an energetic level, we know that some of our dis-ease is comes from us not being emotionally grounded or secure, which creates anxiety, which creates resentment, which can create all kinds of things. But when Cancer comes in and creates the safety, Cancer is not like overtly doing anything. Cancer is simply holding space. so that we are felt, so that we are heard, so that we are understood, so that we are accepted, so that we feel like we belong, so that we feel safe because we are protected. And ultimately, this is what a nurturer or a divine mother or a caretaker is doing for her child. And of course, when we think about the inner child or working into inner child, Cancer comes before Leo. So we can do in Leo season all of that inner child work of having fun. But first, we need to know that we are safe. And so when the healing energies of the water signs come into play, Cancer first creates that safe space. Nobody's going to come in, nobody's going to catch you, no, nothing is going to come by surprise. So you feel free to loosen up, to open up, so that when by the time Scorpio comes in to do the deep work and the deep cleaning, the deep drudging up, that we will feel safe. Because if Scorpio just came in and said, I'm going to go do like the Roto-Rooter, for most of us, we're going to be blocked off, right? We're like, this is not safe. I'm not letting you in. And then healing can't happen. And so there's so much power in Cancer. Now, because we have 3 planets by the time solstice comes that are going to be in Cancer, I want to talk a little bit about the differences in how these planetary processes use this Cancer archetype. Now, that Cancer archetype of space holding, of emotional security, of safety, of creating belonging and nurturing is coming through. With Mercury, Mercury is about understanding and communicating and expressing. Mercury's process is to perceive, express, communicate, as well as understand the information that goes in and out. And so with Mercury in Cancer, this understanding, of course, comes from that emotional nature. And Cancer in Mercury, as it expresses itself, Cancer as an archetype doesn't necessarily have a voice box, right? Like a crab doesn't have an ability to create vocalizations. So Mercury in communicating through Cancer is not necessarily going to be using words. Instead, it's going to be like a kind tap on the shoulder, or a full bear hug of an embrace, or an offering of some iced tea on a hot day to express like, hey, take a load off. And so if you have natally Mercury in Cancer, knowing that words might not necessarily be your first form of communication. However, you are very perceptive into the emotional needs of others and perhaps even yourself. So learn how to communicate without words is how Mercury in Cancer best does its work. Now, Venus in Cancer, Venus is about love and attraction, about connecting and about valuing. And so Venus in Cancer, of course, values emotional intelligence, caretaking, kindness, sensitivity, and that style can be very sentimental or nostalgic with that Cancer, of course, very, very feminine. When I think of like the shabby chic or cottagecore, I'm totally thinking about Venus in Cancer. Now, the values of Venus in Cancer really come to the value of emotional security and nurturing. And as we think about leadership, we are now passing the age of information, where information was the king, and really, like, leaders needed to know all of the information. But because information is so cheap now, what I mean by information is cheap, it's like we can easily do a little Google search. We can easily ask ChatGPT. Like, information is so easy to come by. And so leaders now are being prioritized because of their emotional intelligence, because of their empathy, because of their compassion. And so Venus in Cancer has always seen the value of people being, of leaders and people like you and me being emotionally intelligent, for being kind. We can use so much more kindness in this world. What would this world look like if we all led with the aloha spirit and with the kindness of Cancer? This world would be such a different place. Now, the sun. Venus and Mercury are both personal planets close to the sun, and they are just tight with the sun right now. We had that Mercury and Sun conjunction earlier in Gemini, meaning we were at the halfway point. We're now getting closer to the upcoming Mercury retrograde. Venus, we're also the Venus Sun cazimi that we had last week. We're getting closer to that Venus retrograde that happens next year. But the sun, Mercury serves the sun, Venus serves the sun, because the sun represents your brilliance, your radiance, what naturally shines through in you. It represents some of your highest potential, your willpower, your sense of self, and your identity. The sun is such the central part in our charts. And as the sun moves into Cancer, we are radiating this kindness, this sensitivity, this caretaking, this coming home to, whether or not you have a family that you love, or friends that are like family, or all of your plants and your plant family, or your animal family, whatever that family that makes you feel safe and secure. That sun is coming home to Cancer and sparks our summer solstice for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. Now, regardless if you are living in the Southern Hemisphere or the Northern Hemisphere, Cancer still represents the summer solstice because it reaches that northernmost spot on planet Earth, where the sun reaches on the day of the solstice, most northern longitude, latitude 23 degrees north of the equator. Now, I'm super fascinated by the astronomy of the astronomy, like the science of the stars, of astrology. You might have heard that I actually spent a few semesters as an astronomy major. I had no idea you could study astrology, and I really wanted to study the stars. And also, growing up in Hawaii, we are very, very near the Tropic of Cancer. So we're Hawaii as a state, the islands are right around like 22 degrees, 21 degrees. I don't know the exact degrees, but it's right south, a few degrees south of the Tropic of Cancer. And why this is so significant is that in Hawaii, we will have 2 days of zero shadow, meaning that the sun is directly at the midheaven, directly above. So right around noon, at a single day in May and a single day in July, right? So May and July, it will be equal distance between that summer solstice of June 20th. Equal distance between in May and July, the sun will be overhead at different days at different parts of Hawaii, because each of the islands, it's very, very, very location specific. Each island will have different days of that zero shadow. And it's a day of celebration because the sun is at its highest point. And this is similar to the energy that we all need to understand about the significance of why summer solstice is so important, because the sun at that northernmost journey on the eastern horizon, you'll see on the eastern horizon on the day of the solstice, the sun rises at its very most northern part. So in the southern hemisphere, that northern part is creating winter for y'all. But knowing that all of the energies on Earth are at that northern maximum peak, and it's very significant. It represents a time of full light, no shadow. Okay. In the shadows, things can hide, but in that summer solstice, it's almost like this full moon illumination. That's the energy of it. Nothing can hide. You can reflect and you can see things. You can look back to the previous 6 months and reflect at all that has arisen for you, all that has bloomed for you, and make decisions, knowing that nothing is hidden on what you want to do with that second half of the year. And that's why I find it super fascinating that when we think about the Capricorn full moon happens just a day after the summer solstice at 1 degree of Capricorn. Now, this is even more significant because when this year we're going to have two Capricorn full moons. We're going to have the Capricorn full moon on June 21st at 1 degree of Capricorn, where the sun will be at 1 degree of Cancer. And then we're going to have another Capricorn full moon in July, where it's now at 29 degrees. That's going to be on July 21st. And at that time of that full moon, we're going to have a Mercury square Uranus, Sun trine Neptune. It's going to be a busy day, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We're not talking about that right now. So let's take a look at some of the astrology of this summer solstice first, and then I want to talk about the astrology of the that full moon and how you can really integrate this into giving yourself some rest, really nourishing your emotional security so that you can start doing the big things that are going to take a lot of courage as we come into Leo season. So this is your call to take a little break. Okay, so when the sun enters Cancer at 1:51 p.m. Pacific, 4:51 p.m. Eastern, it enters the cardinal water sign, signaling the summer solstice. Now, in your personal life, of course, tending to your family, and in your work life, this means nourishing yourself, nourishing your clients to feel included in safe community. Now, let me pull up this chart. Now, remember, I live in San Francisco, although I will be in Hawaii very soon. I'm excited. It's been a year since I've been in Hawaii. That's another story. This summer solstice, I'm in San Francisco. This chart is cast from San Francisco. So we are looking at the sun because the sun is the initiator of this chart. As soon as the sun leaves 29 degrees of Gemini, it heads at 0 degrees, 0 minutes of Cancer, creating the solstice. Now, the sun is conjunct Venus at this time. And so, if you are one to do celebrations or rituals around this solstice, be sure that you're spending it with your most intimate, loving, nourishing friends and clients or people. These people really have to feel safe, like they are family. And as I mentioned, that Gemini of 29 degrees being one of those kind of world axis points because it's 1 degree away from a cardinal, 0 degree cardinal, we have Neptune here at 29 degrees of Pisces. Neptune hasn't been this far out in Pisces. It's not yet going to get into Aries this year. Neptune is going to hit reverse soon and trace back a few degrees, but it is at this very critical degree. When a planet is at a 29 degree, it's called an anorectic degree. It is very, very powerful, signaling that things are about to end and that we are having a new start. And I know y'all can feel how there is an old world order that is crumbling down. You can see all of the authoritarian kinds of governments and people trying to grab onto power. We have to do our work to keep freedom, inclusivity, kindness, and love alive, okay, at this really crucial time. And so that starts, we can't do this if we're depleted. So this starts with really nurturing yourself. And so to me, this square between the sun And Neptune is saying, hey, don't wait for somebody to like knock you off your feet before you take a rest and lay down. Take action, take initiative on your own self-care and your own self-compassion. Venus says, spend time with people that are like your family, that you feel that you belong, that you feel safe, that you feel secure with. And Mercury, very close to the sun at this time, even though Mercury, like, look at how fast it is, 7 degrees away already. Mercury is like, share your words of kindness, share your words of deep love and emotional contentment, share how you feel, express how you truly feel. I think this is so beautiful for this summer solstice. I was looking at the summer solstice chart from last year. This summer solstice chart feels much more lovely. All right. So anyway, this is the chart for the summer solstice. And let's take a look at the chart for the full moon, which is one day after. So hold on a second. Okay. So now the moon moved pretty quickly, 12 degrees a day. And what makes a full moon, of course, is when the sun and the moon sit opposite in the sky from each other. So Capricorn moon and Cancer sun. And so when we think about the Capricorn Cancer axes, and we're going to have a second opportunity again in July to reflect, remember that this reflection is trying to understand where we need to let go of not seeing our own life experience and our own authority, right? Where Capricorn is about expertise and authority. And it's changing, right? Because we're no longer dealing with like hierarchy, but how everybody has their own expertise. And so this sun is shining the light on how have you felt like you own your own wisdom? Have you felt that you are an expert in your life? Have you felt that your lived experiences are expertise enough? Okay, that's really, really, really deep work. And the sun, Cancer sun, is saying, let's feel into this. Let's shine this light on all the ways you haven't felt like an expert or an authority figure in your own life, all the ways that you've been letting decisions be made by others. Now, this full moon, guess what? Is forming a T-square with Neptune, which means Neptune sitting at this last degree of Pisces. It's an out of sign T-square, but it's still a T-square nevertheless. And this means that Neptune is the referee. Neptune is saying, okay, how are you feeling? Okay, how are you doing? And Neptune is like, well, maybe things are not so clear. Luckily, we'll get a redo in July. Now, Neptune at 29 degrees, of course, we think of all the things and the shadows of Neptune, of how we can disillude ourselves, or confuse ourselves, or avoid things because we're feeling too much. So I don't know how much Neptune is really going to be helping on our reflection process, but if you try to overthink this, you're never going to get there. In order to really understand and reflect on this full moon is, yes, my friend, to feel into it, to connect with spirit, to connect with your soul, to trust your intuition, which at 29 degrees of Neptune, trusting your intuition is a little bit confusing. Just a little bit, but we have to trust. We have to get into the depths. So this would be such a beautiful day to do some meditation, to play with water, to commune with water. This full moon, again, such a potential for release in terms of understanding your emotions and what holds you back from claiming your own expertise. All right. So we'll see what happens for you as you reflect back in terms of what has bloomed for you, right? Because a full moon is always about reflection in terms of celebrating your accomplishments, as well as really truly recognize the blocks that you still have. And it's so lovely that it's in, collaboration with the summer solstice, because the light is so bright right now. And sometimes even in bright light, you might need to put some sunglasses on. Otherwise, you can't see so well. And that's fine too. So whatever you need. But what I really want you to do is reflect on all of your expertise. How is your lived experience, the wisdom that you hold, how is that valuable? Do you own it? Do you claim it? Or are you still working through and trying to accept that value? If you are, make sure you go listen to that Cancer episode and learn how to work with your moon so that you feel that emotionally secure. Be honest with yourself, because nobody can do this reflection for you. Okay. You can get help. You can go, talk to a spiritual friend or a spiritual guide, or get readings from people, or, find a therapist to help you be the sounding board or that mirror that helps you to reflect. But this is such a great time of deep introspection, because this is the work that you need to do to take that next level in your leadership. All right, my friends. So I thought this was going to be a short episode, but I guess I had a lot to say. So thank you for listening, for all of this Cancer energy. I'd love to hear how you have been reframing this Cancer archetype in your life, in your work, and in your leadership. Because when it's used powerfully, and when you can really recognize and own and claim the value of Cancer, it is such a powerful energy and makes wonderful, wonderful, memorable leaders. All right, my friends, more soon. Bye for now. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.